I have been planning to start playing adult for a long time, to create not just characters, but whole world with intertwined destinies, and to make them push the viewer to become a better person, or at least to think about it. And now you are witnessing my grounding. Like all the best things, it comes smoothly. So here is my story in order. Firstly, here is my doll, who already had a toast and a song dedicated to her. Carmen, welcome! I'm doing a collection dedicated to Barcelona, where each character will represent my vision of a neighborhood. I will absorb the sensations, walk, live, meet the locals, and then translate the experience into a character. I'm planning about dozen characters, but I'll make them in several versions, different emotions, different materials, and different costumes. You will see a link to the release where I talk about the music for this doll. Check it out. Now I have already made the covers and uploaded the music release. The link is in the description. Each character has his own song, so there will be a collection of songs by neighborhood from different local musicians. I want my art to cover different aspects of human life, and with permission to reach even into places where my dolls don't belong. Also, I am taking my stories into virtual reality and will soon start publishing a comic series, where the plot revolves around a doll coming to life in an antique shop. I am very interested in the question of consciousness and the soul, if you will. And here I am going to try to fantasize with my patrons on themes where the internal meets the facet of the future. And the first character will be our Carmen. When I say ours, I am not kidding, because dolls require a huge time, investment, and are the product of collective labor. Every stitch on the costume, every polygon in the 3D model, every brush stroke, all of this is measured in seconds and multiplied by millions. And until I start to live the result, the process continues indefinitely. I have already told you about the camisole, how I have generated sketches in mid-journey. The final result was quite a self-confident fantasy on the theme of the naval Colombian costume, if I may say so. It took me a long time to choose a fabric, but in the end I fell in love with one of was a little lighter. The Balearic Sea, where I live, is actually quite light. Already in the process I realized that I needed a fabric embroidered with patterns, and in the shop I came across the only suitable option. I came up with boots that I could wear myself. I love what I came out and will soon post a course on how to make the same boots. What boots? With patterns and step-by-step instructions in 2 languages. Subscribe so you don't miss out, and be sure to give me a like. Using space technology, but in human time, my friend Matthias and I are making a prototype of the wooden doll Carmen.
Hello, my name is Matthias Ferrero. I'm Peruvian industrial designer, and here we're reproducing a doll through several techniques to fabricate it in wood. So we're using 3D modeling, 3D scanning, 3D printing, and also Kuka CNC milling for fabrication of the pieces.
Any prototyping takes a ton of time and causes unplanned work. I want to carve my doll out of wood, but to do that I need to print the past first to make sure the model is correct. I will finish the scanned mold with the help of 3D artists, make a skeleton in it, stretch the rubber band just like it in real life, and then render scenes based on our plot, which I remind you will be developed together with those who subscribe to my Patreon soon. After all, in real life, things are not big more complicated. You have to model so that the drill can get where it needs to go and the part doesn't fall out. Keep following me to see how it turns out. I'm terribly curious myself. My biography video was well received by the audience, so I decided to continue telling different stories from the beginning of my career, to convince people who are afraid to start and to smile at the paths I have traveled. Back in 1999, I wrote a letter to the most promoted gallery in the country, after which we get on the phone with the founder, where I was asked, "Do I make my own porcelain casts?" I said, "Yes, I do," and was further asked to bring a doll. After hanging up the phone, I went to find out what these porcelain casts were. I had been interested in the world of dolls since childhood, but I didn't know the technology. But there was no stopping me, and I wasn't afraid to get into ridiculous situations. Like the time I took a train to another city with parts made of unbaked porcelain, an extremely fragile material, and I was traveling as if I were carrying an eggshell dog. But the first experience ended quickly and unexpectedly well. After firing and finishing my first porcelain doll in several iterations, I took it to a New Year Eve exhibition, and it immediately sold for $1,000. And although the gallery took half of it for themselves back in 1999, that was an interesting amount of money. But it was not the sum itself that surprised me. It was the fact that my work was still needed by someone. After that, I went into the world of dolls without a trace. A couple of years later, in 2002, I went to an exhibition in Washington. Because of terrorist attacks, I had to unwrap every detail, every bag, and was still surprising at the time. In general, airports can feel funny when staff are looking all parts of a dismembered doll's body. But there was a funny story that happened in Moscow with the reborn artists. You know, they make real-sized baby dolls. So one of them ordered an air grill for roasting over the phone, and in the description of a dimensional request, she said that she needed it to fit a baby's head. In that, a policeman came with delivery man to see if everything was okay. I'll try to remember more cases of my youth, but in the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe. As usual, I want to recommend a film about women artists and their struggles. It is hard for me to associate myself with the character of the next heroine, but at certain moments I see myself quite clearly for this film. Maybe you will like it too. Séraphine is a 2008 French biographical drama film about the life of French painter Séraphine Lewis. The film follows Séraphine's life from her early days as a housekeeper to her discovery by German art dealer Wilhelm Ude. Ude is immediately struck by Séraphine's paintings, which are characterized by their vibrant colors and childlike simplicity. He begins to promote her work, and Séraphine soon achieves fame and critical acclaim. However, Séraphine's mental health begins to decline, and she is eventually diagnosed with schizophrenia. He is committed to a mental institution where she continues to paint until her death in 1942. The film Séraphine is a moving and inspiring portrait of an outsider artist. It is a story about the power of creativity and the importance of following one's dreams. She is a self-taught artist, and she uses simple materials like house paint and egg yolks to create her paintings. Séraphine's work is initially met with skepticism, but she eventually achieves critical acclaim. Her mental health begins to declare after she achieves fame, and she is eventually committed to a mental institution. She continues to paint in the institution, and her work is eventually rediscovered and celebrated. The film Séraphine is a beautifully made and sensitively acted film. It is a story about the power of art and the importance of following one's dreams. That's the release. Be sure to subscribe to my Instagram and also like to subscribe on YouTube if you are not subscribed. And most importantly, listen to the song on the music venues.